What's going on? Wanted to do a quick update here and kind of share a little bit of information about something that's about to happen. We're about to take, well, I'm personally about to take it's about a 2 week break, maybe about a 4 week break. So you're not really going to see much on the channel. And I'm going to kind of explain why that is as I go throughout this video and share a couple of things that I think is going to resonate with a lot of people right now, specifically related to the fact that everything feels like it's an incredibly confusing and chaotic time, and making sense of what's going on has become incredibly difficult and perhaps frustrating for a lot of people. There's this feeling that there's a lot of chaos and there's a lot of uncertainty, and we're having a difficult time as people sort of dealing with this uncertainty and sitting with this uncertainty. And so, some of the things that I've observed happen over the past little while, I think has been an inspiration as to why we've created a lot of content in the past little bit the way we have, and kind of really why we've done things the way we have for the last 11 years, but more so even a little bit more aggressively moving into really examining what are the thought process, what are the states of being, what is the state of thinking, what is the state of sense making and logical tracing, and are we being intuitive about how we look at things? Are we really connecting with how does this feel for me on a deeper level when we're looking at something we might call truth? Um, all these factors are incredibly important, and they've always been a big part of our work, but now we're really sort of turning towards making it an even more obvious part of our work, for the very purpose that over the past little while, things have become very interesting to observe as to what's going on with people trying to make sense of this whole coronavirus situation, this upcoming election, the state of the deep state, and all these different things. These are all very loaded and big and complex and nuanced topics, that have a lot of truth within them. But there's also, and I say this, and sometimes people will get a little bit like, well, what do you mean by this? But there's a lot of bunk as well within a lot of these topics. And it almost feels as though that filter for, sort of what is sort of legitimate to talk about and credible in a sense, or what is actual evidence, or what might be a real conspiracy versus stuff that is actually not true and verifiably not true, yet we still believe it because we're addicted to just believing in any alternative narrative. Like, these are real things that are going on right now, and there's this complicated position where the mainstream is saying that all conspiracy theories are false and everything that isn't mainstream narrative is a conspiracy theory, right? So there's a lot of really lack of intelligent sense making going on within the mainstream community, but at the same time, in a lot of the alternative space, whether it be with the content creators, the analysis, or people that are viewing, there's also a lot of challenges happening where we are clinging to ideas, or that we believe every single alternative narrative is true, or we believe that any channeler or any expert that is sharing something is everything is just going to be true because they've been around for so long and they've figured out COVID, or they've figured out the whole Trump situation, or they've figured out something, right? And the polarization of seeing what's happening on both sides of the coin is the collective reflection, is the lesson that is coming up here. And it's to kind of show that we're sort of stuck in this mode where we want everything to be black and white, and we don't want any uncertainty, and we're having a difficult time sort of dealing with the feelings that come from the uncertainty. It appears too that we're also very traumatized by so much of what has happened in our lives, or even potentially in the world. And in that state of trauma, instead of dealing with it, we're sort of filling it up with even more and more and more ideas, or I need to kind of know what's going on, or I need some sort of salvation and understanding where things are headed and where it's going. And I just need to know right now. And if I don't know right now, I don't know what to do. And at the same time, I have this sense and this feeling like I want to change things. I want to be part of it. I know that things are, need to be shifted or restored, or something needs to happen, but I don't really know what to do. And we kind of keep going around this information circle over and over and over again that kind of pushes a lot of ideas that just kind of uh, it almost makes people feel hopeless, and it makes people feel confused, and it makes people feel like um, we're not sure what to do. And part of the observation that I wanted to share here too is like I've noticed over the past little while, especially since Corona, especially when it first started, there was a lot of people that were saying, this is it, this is the time where we're gonna have all the days of darkness and the deep state, and then everyone's gonna get arrested, and all these things are gonna happen, and these are channeled messages from my alien friends or whoever it might be, right? And um, when I heard all this stuff, I was like, this doesn't ring true with me at all, like zero, like not at all. Yet people believed this deeply, and they were sharing it with me constantly, and all these people's channels and their, whatever, were blowing up like crazy, and everybody had to watch that David Wilcock, 3.5 hour piece or whatever. Everybody was kind of just like pushing this, and it was like intuitively this doesn't feel or sound right, and it kind of reminds me of that same, there's been an event and we need to have an answer right away. There needs to be an immediate answer, and so what can I come up with as an immediate answer? And then, oh well, there's not really a lot of evidence, so let me just say that I channeled it. Or there's not really a lot of evidence, so my sources told me, right? um, and this kind of stuff has been going on for a long time, where people like to lean on the channeling ideas, or the sort this my sources told me. And this isn't to say that something like channeling isn't real. I mean, we've talked about the science behind it, we've talked about some of the rigor that goes on there, exploring these paranormal ideas. Like, it's absolutely real. But again, it's this kind of stuff that makes it a little bit more of a laughable subject, because um, there's there's this confusion sometimes between, am I really channeling, am I not channeling, like, am I discerning, am I filtering everything through my own thoughts and belief systems? And I think the tricky part for us in observing this is seeing how these people will say stuff like this. It obviously doesn't happen, and then yet they're still growing as an audience. They're growing a bigger audience. They're growing more people, and it's like it begs the question: why are the audiences growing so much for people that literally can't be questioned? Because I'm channeling something. You can't question that, right? And and even though they're wrong every other month, like, it continues to be proven that what they're saying is not correct. It's not correct. It's not correct. People still go back to it all the time, and deeper, sort of meaningful conversations and sense making, all these different things, is not happening. And this is kind of why we've shifted some of our content focus over the past little bit. Like I say, what we've been doing for the last 11 years or so has always been developing our inner faculties, our intuition, our internal understanding of who we are, our internal lie detector tests, if you will. Really asking ourselves, what kind of world do we want to live in? What do we want that to look like? How do we get there? What is important to the deeper sense of ourselves? How do I connect with my heart? How do I connect with my higher self? How do I connect with these things? And um, again, not from this trendy point of view, which I think is another challenge that's happening right now. Is we've a lot of these ideas that were talked about so long ago, in the past year or two, maybe even 3 years, have become really, really, really trendy. They've become pop culture to some extent, whether it be conspiracies or whether it be some stuff within spirituality, has become very pop culture. And I remember giving a talk back in 2017 where I was talking about how there was going to be a moment where um, consciousness, if you will, was going to become a lot more mainstream, and it was coming very, very soon. And when that happens, we kind of have these two paths that we can go on. One path is it can be marginalized, if you will, and become very trendy and become something where it's like, I want to represent that I'm intuitive, and I want to represent that I have this amazing connection to myself, and all these sorts of things. And it may come across very inauthentic, and it may be very inauthentic, because when a trend comes along, it's not that it's a bad thing, and it's not that people have malicious intent. It's that it becomes like profitable. It becomes something we want to fit into. It becomes something that we want to sort of fill our own uncertainty with ourselves by being part of the trend and being accepted and being part of something, right? It's our desire to be part of something. And The challenge with that is in our modern world, a lot of time that creates a lot of inauthenticity. It creates a lot of confusion amongst people. And then when the trend dies down, it's almost like that whole subject matter has sort of been tainted um, in a lot of ways. But, that was one path that we could go down. And the other path would be to remain grounded, to remain authentic, to really explore this stuff from a little bit more of a serious point of view, a little bit more of a serious conversation. And I don't think it's negative that we've kind of, as a collective, gone down the more trendy and authentic path. I think, again, it's one of those things that plays out as a perfect experience for us to observe, like, whoa, okay, that's how it's coming out as we deal with this, as we look at this stuff through this more, trendy sort of inauthentic form. This is how it surfaces, and it gives us an opportunity to reflect on that and say, is there perhaps a different way of looking at this or going about this or seeing this? And I think that's where we're at now, is kind of in this position where even with COVID and alternative media, it's become extremely trendy to talk about alternative media. Any doctor can put on a lab coat right now and stand in front of a camera and say something that's alternative to the mainstream narrative, and they will grow a massive audience. And that's good, but it's also tricky because there's a lot of stuff going on where it has become about gaining an audience. It has become about making money. It has become about being first. It has become about having the most dramatic piece of information. The challenge with this is it shows that the intention is not making sense of the world. The intention is not, where do we go from here? The intention is, I'm just going to be part of this. I'm going to be part of this trend. And that's really tricky. And I know it's a nuanced position and it might be confusing and you may not know precisely what I'm trying to get at here, or these sorts of things like who's involved, who's not involved, this, that, whatever. That's not the point. The point is to figure out any of these things and to really come to a point of groundedness. We have to start developing our inner peace, our inner presence, our inner sense-making capabilities, really exploring, where are my dogmas, where are my biases, where am I getting stuck in seeing something and holding on to needing certainty, right? I need to know what's happening. I need to know what the truth is. I need to know what the agenda is here, right? This spot of being in a state of, I can't just be in the moment where things are uncertain and I don't know, is a really big challenge that's playing out right now. And this media space, this alternative media space in general, is becoming extremely chaotic and complicated as a result of a lot of those feelings. And again, this is why we've been turning, to really exploring the inner part of it even more obviously in our work in the past, couple of months, because this is a really big thing. And if you haven't read my Conspiriality essay that kind of explores this, I encourage you to go on Collective Evolution and check it out, because it's an important conversation. As well as, on CETV, we focus a lot on courses or guides or having conversations around these ideas of how to, really develop the connection with self, not from a trendy perspective where it's like, oh yeah, I have a, my intuition is fantastic or whatever it might be, which it might be, but at the same time, sometimes we think we're being intuitive about something, but we're actually just hearing something that aligns with our narrative. And because our mind likes that dopamine hit, we think that's intuition, right? And what I'm saying is there's a difference between these things. And we really can discern that difference of what's my mind versus what's my intuition the more we practice, the more we take the time to be quiet, the more we take time to be silent, right? Silence is a very important thing, connection to nature. These things are really important in our modern world. And what I'm observing right now is a lot of people are computer, like I'm stuck inside my house, computer, phone, content. And that type of environment is incredibly difficult to connect with yourself, to make sense of things, to really explore stuff. And we're seeing that in our world with people latching on to every idea, every alternative narrative, everything that's coming out is true and don't question it. And the mainstream's trying to say, hey, you know what? Not all conspiracies are actually, no, the mainstream says no conspiracies are real. They're all false, right? And the alternative is saying, no, everything's real. It's all, this. And the mainstream's just trying to censor everybody. Whereas the reality of the situation is both positions are dogmatic. And at the same time, yes, there's censorship. And yes, some conspiracies are not real and some conspiracies are real. But in order to make sense of that and to have these conversations, it's like, a lot of times the alternative community wants everybody in the mainstream to wake up and believe everything. Well, the feedback that is being given is that they're asking you to have a more grounded, serious approach to having these conversations, and not just make it be about this most extreme, hey, everything is this and everything is that, and it's very out there, if you will, whatever out there means, whatever. I'm not trying to say like you can't have these conversations authentically or however that feels to you. What I'm saying is there's a very real culture within this where everything has an agenda, everything has a conspiracy, and people do share fake news. They do come up with fake ideas. Um, and we got to take responsibility for that. Like this is a big thing that's going on right now if we want to unite as people and be able to have serious conversations. And so part of why I'm taking a two-week break here, and you may not see much on this channel, it might be a 4-week break, I don't know, is, as this election comes up, it's, a lot of people are holding their breath, like, what's going to happen, what's going to happen, what's going to happen. And it's almost like it doesn't matter what comes out right now. People want to know, and they want to see what the results are going to be. And so it's a great time to actually take a breath. It's a great time to actually say, you know what, let's just let things be until this election, until people are kind of a little bit more calm, or seeing, hey, let's talk about things more completely, or let's talk about things from a different standpoint. And I have a lot of ideas that I've worked on over the past, 2 or 3, maybe even 4 years, that I haven't finished putting out, that are just sitting as notes. There's unfinished courses, there's unfinished presentations and master classes. There's so many different things that really explore developing, ourselves as people, developing our sense making capabilities, developing our intuition, even bits of content that explore stuff that's going on in the world through that, inner self point of view. And I've put it off because over the last 3 years we've been demonetized, and there's been such a level of attack on independent media that, I had to spend so much time and energy, which took a really big toll, just bringing the company back to solid ground where it's not bleeding money every single month. So I've spent a lot of time doing that, and now I'm at a point where it's like, okay, I'm going to take a little bit of a rest, a little bit of a break, right? You're not going to see much content in the next couple of weeks. But at the same time, I want to get together all these ideas, because now it appears to be an incredibly important time for this content that I've kind of had in the back drawer here, just sort of sitting and waiting for, sort of the right time for it to come out, and to spend a lot of time and energy on it. And I'm going to do some of that. I'm going to really kind of bring out some of that content, and really just also just take a break. And so if you're kind of feeling confused, if you're feeling like everything's chaotic, like, take that break. Take 2, 3, 4 days away from social media for a little while, and just reconnect. And you'll come back to a lot of what's going on in our world with a different perspective. And you'll come back with a greater sense of connection, and you'll actually be able to see and feel truth from fiction a little bit differently. And you'll be more okay with the uncertainty of what's going on right now. So I just wanted to kind of share all these ideas. It's a bit of a monologue, like, it's not perfect. It is what it is. But I wanted to give you a little update about what I'm about to do, some of the break that I'm about to take, and just share some of these thoughts on what's going on right now, and just some stuff that we might want to think about, and some of the areas we're getting our information, and some of the stuff we're following, and just kind of really ask that question: does it have a lot of the sort of telltale signs that, like, is it credible? Is it something that's being open to what's exploring? Is it making a lot of assertions? Is it just channeled information that is wrong a lot, but we kind of forget that it was wrong a month ago, and a month before that, and a month before that? And ask the question, why are we still holding on to information that is consistently not accurate? Why? What about humanity is making all these channels that are, assertively making all these assertions about what's happening that never turn out to be true? Why are they still growing so much? What's going on within ourselves that's trying to latch onto those ideas? I think these are very important questions. So thanks so much for watching this. Thanks for all the support on the channel, CETV, everything like that, helping us get back to solid ground. It's been really meaningful. And yeah, we'll catch you when I'm back.